Here we go. Hello, Emmanuel. This is Raphael
Hello,
in
Raphael. Hello,
great,
hello.
great to see you in
Same here.
Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm live from Sarasota, Florida,
Okay.
and it's the Sunshine State, but it's cloudy and raining and
Okay.
lots of storms. But I
Uh-huh.
wanted to start the process of creating the Kindertransport Collective, creating a Kindertransport gathering online. Obviously, due to COVID, gathering in person is a little more challenging, and that'll come in time. So I want to tell the story for about a minute about how Emmanuel and I met. I was invited to Jerusalem by Elihu Maron, a radio legend in Israel, and also uh, a brigadier general, and we met in Jerusalem at a coffee shop, Elihu and I, and we've maintained a friendship, but kind of from a distant space. I live in the north, he lives in Jerusalem, but we decided to get together. He did me a favor a few months ago, and as I was sitting there, a gathering started to happen that I didn't know about. It seems that the mayor of Jerusalem was coming to dedicate a bench in honor of Jerusalem legend, and a gentleman sat down next to me who's online with me, Emanuel Rund, and we immediately realized that we were both Shomer Yisrael. We were both guardians of Israel, and we had this Zionist deal within us, and a dedication to fighting anti-Semitism on a level that the world hasn't seen yet, because we haven't put into full action all the work that I hope to do with Emmanuel. But as we sat and spoke, Emmanuel looked at me in his innocence and in his deep thought, and he said, "Would you like to make a movie? Would you like to make a movie with me?" And I immediately said, "Yes." never made a movie, an official movie. And then Emmanuel went on to share with me, his legacy in the film industry. And Emmanuel, I'm honored to be here with you. I look forward to doing things with you and sharing not just your story, but also creating a legacy for generations to come. Because there are stories that need to be told, and stories that need to be shared. So, Emmanuel, tell us where you are, and maybe give us a little bit of background as to when you met me and what you were doing there. That would be great.
Yeah, I was doing there looking for, there was a dedication of a bank to sit on in front of the Duv Shanit coffee shop of Dudu Rosh Ha'ir. There used to be a so-called Dudu, the mayor of Jerusalem, unofficially, and I knew him as one of the characters of Jerusalem. We all know each other. And so I went to the dedication, and it was Beshert to meet you, Rafi. And I'm basically, like you, Shomer Israel, guardian of Jews and Israel in the world. And born here in Yerushalayim, fought here in Yerushalayim, and did lots of work in the United States and in Germany, making films mainly and television programs, much about Jewish topics in Israel. And I made 30 films about the Holocaust. One of them entered the Oscars, called All Jews Out. And I keep making films and love to have Rafi together next to me on some of the projects. One project I'm working on is My Jerusalem, 1946 to 1972, when the Israeli television sent me to New York. Everybody that I knew, fought with, studied with, worked with Israeli television. I was among those founding team of the Israeli television. And as I say, it was the first time in 2,000 years that we had a TV station in Israel since the Bible time, 3,000 years. And so I'm planning a few more films dealing with the Holocaust And of course, Kindertransport is very dear to me. Back about 30 years ago, I was planning to make a film about it. So I was meeting the two sisters, relatively elderly, one in Radak Street in Jerusalem, the other one I met in London, and started to work on a film about it. But since I worked on a few other films at the time, I decided to give the idea to two ladies that they should make it. And but now we have Rafi and we have new ideas, and we'll follow them. You can tell them, Rafi, about our ideas.
Before I talk about the idea, I want to share my connection and what actually happened. About a year ago, I was invited to Kibbutz Hazorea, where the house of Wilfrid Israel, who was a kind of a mysterious, legendary figure in Zionism that almost no one heard about. He was killed, I believe, in 1941, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And but he was the funder of Kibbutz Hazorea. He sent his art collection. Some actually claim that he was the wealthiest Jew living in Berlin in the 1920s and 30s. He had the largest department store, over 2,000 employees working at N Israel, which was kind of like the Bloomingdale's or the Mashpir of Berlin at the time. And he had a lot of secret stories. And I found out because the museum had been robbed a year ago. And I was called in. I work with a lot of museums and galleries as a consultant, and they asked me if I could help them. But when I learned about Wilfrid Israel, and more importantly, my first mentor, Ephraim Howard, ended up living on Kibbutz Hazorea for the last years of his life. And I knew about Wilfrid's house, but no one on the kibbutz even knew about it, what it really represented. And it's a fascinating story. It's not just an art collection, it's a Zionist legacy. It's a legacy because, cutting to the chase, Wilfrid Israel supposedly, and we will reveal this in the movie, he funded the Kindertransport. He was one of the major funders of saving 10,000 children during the Holocaust. And he was a spy for England living in Berlin. He was connected to Winston Churchill. He was connected to Mahatma Gandhi, to Weizmann, to Buber, and the list goes on. It's really amazing. But by being there a year ago, I saw that their greatest opportunity was the lack of knowledge about the Kindertransport and the lack of unity, the lack of a collective community of the children, grandchildren, and the legacy of the Kindertransport. And in meeting Emanuel, I felt that there was an opportunity to not just make a movie, but build museums dedicated to this legacy of children. The children are our future. The children bring us the continuation of our tradition from Sinai and our tradition of Zionism. And I think it's really important for us as a united community, a Kindertransport, a kinder community of a global community. We have the ability. So anybody that's watched so far and that has listening to this, please share or let people that you know who are children or who are still Kindertransport, because many of them are still alive, to please get in touch with us, because we want to document not just their story, but also we want to be them to be advisors on the actual film, because they can give us the firsthand, insight. Emanuel, what are your thoughts so far?
Yeah, in which direction?
In terms of the gathering of the knowledge base, the gathering of the information. I mean, I know you have archives of film footage, but I think there's still an important collective of community that needs to be brought together. And I think this forum can really help bring us together.
Yes, I know and knew and know many people I met were in the Kindertransport or were connected with it somehow. And now it's their children or even grandchildren that we have to look for. And some of them I know and in touch with. But we would like, of course, to have a better choice, so to say, from all continents, wherever they live today, in Israel, in the US, and Australia. Um, and so, yeah, as you said, they should get in touch with us, and yeah, we'll tell them what we are doing. And at
Right.
some
One of the
point,
right two of
hopefully,
the
we'll
two
come to film them. Yeah,
absolutely, and two of the organizers, two of the people who are in the original group have very strong connections in South America. Their families through the Kindertransport or through direct righteous Gentiles ended up in South America, and there are stories that still have yet to be untold. And
right.
I want to I want to commit to a weekly gathering, a weekly online gathering at this time at 7 p.m. in Jerusalem. That's 12 noon on the East Coast and 9 a.m. on the West Coast, and it allows for hopefully, Florida. I found out has the largest um, the the largest living population of Holocaust survivors. There are more survivors living in Florida, obviously because of retirement and the comfort, financially of living here. But I think it's really important to get the word out to the Floridians and get the word out to those living in New York or those living in Israel. There's still a tremendous amount of survivors in Israel, and through this network, I think we can get the funding needed for the movie and ultimately get to the philanthropists and the patrons who want to commit to leaving a huge legacy of children. I see tremendous parallels in our time. Emmanuel, can you please give us some closing words for this initial broadcast?
Yes, thank you for doing it. And as I said, I produced 240 films and TV shows, 30 films dealing with the Holocaust in Israel. So we'll be able for sure to find patrons and funding. And yeah, we'll go for it. And again, those people of you who are listening, especially if you have some documentation from back then, from your parents or grandparents in Europe, mainly in Germany, Austria, and other countries, those who were in the Kindertransport and whatever documentation they did when they arrived in England and following when they moved to Israel or to the US or wherever. So keep that in mind to let us know what you have, and we'll be in touch with you.
Fantastic. Emmanuel, thank you for your time. And in the comments, I put links to the Kindertransport Legacy Facebook page and the Kindertransport Legacy Facebook group. And that's where the communication will be. And if anyone wants to send a direct message to myself or to Emmanuel, please do it there, and I will forward it to Emmanuel. And have a beautiful week. Shavua Tov to everybody. And Am Yisrael Chai.
Big hug to everybody.